dog Henry. He's a big Great Pyrenees St. Bernard boxer mix, and he's been by my side for about 8 years now. We've hiked, camped, trained, and had so many memorable experiences together. But not only has he been one of my best friends, he's also been one of my best teachers. According to Forbes Media, about 65.1 million U.S. households own dogs, and about 85% of those consider their dogs to be a member of the family. So I'm sure a lot of you understand the connection that Henry and I have. However, have you ever stopped to think about what you can learn from your dog? Dogs can teach us things that are hard to learn by reading a book, or watching a movie, or just living. They can teach us things that are so simple they seem complex. Through living with Henry, training him, and overall being around these pets my whole life, I've had many opportunities to not only teach dogs, but to be taught by them. Some people believe that humans are superior to animals, and I disagree with that. Through my time working with dogs, I found that each one has taught me an important life lesson. One of the most important things that I have learned is patience. Training a dog takes time and effort. It's not always easy, and there will be times when you want to give up. However, with patience and persistence, you will eventually see results. One of the first times I was training dogs was when I was teaching Henry to play dead. I had a book on training, a bowl full of blueberries, and a whole lot of determination. I was going to teach that dog to play dead if it was the last thing I ever did, which it probably would have been if not for my bowl of blueberries. You see, Henry's a smart dog. He was fully capable of learning what I was trying to teach him. He just wanted the blueberries so badly that he couldn't care less about the trick. To my disappointment, he spent a lot of the time flopping around on the ground, attempting to get the blueberries. After a while, I had gotten him partway rolled over. He just didn't stay in that position long enough to be considered dead. I was just about done with that dog. I almost just got up and left him behind in the living room, something I usually would have done when I was frustrated like that. But the thing is, me and him have a bond. I wanted to see us both succeed. So instead, I took a deep breath and told myself, calm down and keep going. I had to keep reminding myself that patience and persistence pays off, and eventually, it did. It took a while, but Henry had finally figured out how to play dead, and I had trained one of my first dogs. While Henry celebrated with a bowl full of blueberries, I reflected on how patience had helped me. If I had yelled at him, which I had wanted to, or given up, which I almost did, he probably wouldn't have learned the trick, and neither of us would have achieved success. Instead, I kept trying, no matter how much self-control it took. In the end, because of him and his stubbornness, I learned how to show patience. This has come to be a very important life lesson and has come in handy more times than I can count. Not only in training dogs, but in different situations in my life. It's helped me deal with difficult situations, achieve my goals, and help me build a stronger bond with the 2- and 4-legged members of my family. This is my dog, George. He's a golden retriever, and he taught me another one of my most important life lessons, unconditional love. George came into our life at a very difficult time. We had just lost our family dog, and we weren't sure if we were ready to move on to another one yet. But as it turns out, adopting George was the best decision for him and for us. George's previous owners kept him tied up outside with only a bowl of food and some water. When he came to live with us, he was about 15 pounds overweight, and he didn't seem to have a happy life. Coming to live with us was a huge improvement. He went from living a lonely life outside to living with another dog and a cat, a normal feeding schedule, a warm bed, and waking up to our hugs every morning. But seeing that our life was such a huge improvement for him, I was surprised to see that when his owners left, he still seemed sad. How could he miss the people who had just left him outside? How could he be sad to see them go when they hadn't given him any of the attention or care that he had needed? It's because of unconditional love. Unconditional love is a love that's given without, any conditions. It's a love that's given freely, and George was the perfect example of that. He loved his owners no matter what. He loved them without expecting them to love him back. Now seeing that George loves us that way, I see how important unconditional love can really be. It's a special bond, like a string that never breaks. It has made me realize that I am valued by all members of my family, even when I make mistakes. Imagine what all of our families and friendships would be like if they were all based off of that type of love. We could just be who we were, accept each other for who we were, and love each other without expecting anything in return. George has lived with us for 5 years now, and I can definitely say that his love makes everyone's life, including his, a lot better. Humans have a bad habit of overthinking things. Maybe it's something you said at a party the other day. Maybe it's what you're going to have for dinner tonight. Maybe it's what am I going to do tomorrow. This used to be a huge problem for me. I find that when I fixate on a thought, especially a bad one, it can consume my mind and distract me so much that I can't think about anything else. This used to be a huge problem for me until I met a dog named LuMaye. LuMaye was known as a sweet and calm dog. The only problem was that she didn't like me at all. When she first met me, she would bark at me and avoid me at all costs. However, I, being the patient, dog-loving girl that I was, decided that I was going to change that. It took many hours of playing tug of war, but eventually we became friends. It was a very slow process. She was much stronger than me, so every time we played, I usually ended up being dragged around the house on my stomach, my sweaty hands desperately clinging to the soggy dog slobber-covered rope. But one thing that I noticed is when we were playing is that I wasn't focused on anything except what we were doing. I had to focus on her body language, different cues, and I had to make sure there was no furniture in the way. I also noticed that she wasn't thinking anything else either. When we were playing, she was focused on playing. When we were eating, she was focused on what we were eating. When we were sitting on the cold concrete steps of the house at night watching the sunset, I would bet you any penny that dog was not thinking, gee, I sure wish I had some food right now, or remember today when I dragged you around the house like a dead fish? She was probably thinking about how good it felt to have her ears scratched because she was living in the present. And that's the big problem that I, like a lot of us, probably have. We always think about the things that we can't change and control, or what happened in the past, or what's going to happen. If we would just start thinking about the things that we are doing at the time, everything would be a lot better. So the next time you're at dinner, or you're at a party, instead of thinking about something that you're going to do, or something you did, or thinking about the things that you can't change and control, instead think about what you're doing. I can promise you that if you start thinking like that, your life will be a lot less stressful. I found that now that I'm in middle school, that people like to walk up to you and say something like, why do you always wear your hair like that? Or, why are you so obsessed with dogs? Although the second one is probably true, it comes from a place of judgment and negativity. People feel like they can walk up to you and say something rude straight to your face. This used to bother me so much and would lower my confidence by a ton until I met a small dog named Millie. Oh, Millie. Do you ever have that feeling where you look at your pet and it brings back memories of a warm summer's day with a cold glass of lemonade while a warm breeze blows on you? Well, I get a similar feeling when I think about her, except instead of smelling the sweet scent of summer, I smell dog feet, and instead of feeling cool summer breeze, I feel 15 pounds of fur and muscle slamming into me with such force that it rams me against the back of the couch and smashes my face into the leather. That's Millie. Millie is a small gray and brindle bulldog, French bulldog. She's wild and crazy, and I love her so much, but she isn't loved by all people or all dogs. A defining moment for me was one day when we were outside playing. Another dog ran up, stole her toy, and ran away. This is usually normal dog behavior, except the dog kept doing it over and over and over. Millie didn't seem to be getting annoyed, so I tried not to be, but in truth, I was. Even thinking about it makes me feel a little bit annoyed. And it didn't get any better when we went inside. The dog kept bugging her, and Millie even growled at the dog a couple of times. However, after the third or fourth time that the dog had bugged her, I noticed that Millie stopped reacting at all. She just ignored the dog, and eventually the dog got up and went away. At that moment, I admired her ability to not let the other dog's rude behavior ruin her playtime. Instead, she just ignored the dog, and the dog had left. It made me think about my experiences in middle school. Now, when somebody says something rude or just mean, instead of getting angry or getting frustrated, I compose myself, brush it off, and walk away. I think that there have been times when we could all afford to be a little bit more like that. I'm grateful for all of the life lessons that dogs have taught me as I've gotten older and will continue to teach me as I get older. Dogs can teach us just as much as we can teach them. This is proof of that. So for any of you guys who have a pet, today when you go home, play with your pet. Interact with him. Maybe you can learn an important life lesson too. As I stated before, dogs can be some of the best teachers in life if you listen and observe.